Joining us right now, GOP political strategist Matt Mackowiak, who's taking in a little March Madness. Matt, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing great, Chad. Good morning.
Hey, thanks for coming on. Right now you have James Comey who is testifying, and you saw a little bit of what a lot of others saw, which was that basically the FBI is investigating whether or not Russia meddled with the election and whether or not they had any collusion with the Trump campaign. Correct? Is that kind of the latest?
Yeah, the hearing is really just starting. It started at the top of the hour, and it started with the Intelligence Committee Chairman Devin Nunes making a 5-minute statement, and then the top Democrat Adam Schiff of California making a 15-minute statement, which may have set a record for times where a person has used the word "if." It was really a conditional statement, but one that went through some of the details or the allegations that are out there. We have had Comey now make his opening statement, and they're now entering questions. But you're right. I mean, to the extent there's news at this point, it is only that the FBI director has said that the Justice Department gave him the authority to confirm that the FBI has been investigating whether Russia interfered in our election, and that would be a criminal investigation. It could involve other individuals, but he's not really going beyond just confirming that investigation, which is really something that's been kind of out there for several months anyway.
Yeah, and I guess it almost, depending on how you look at this and how much news you want to make out of what Comey said, what does interfere mean? It almost, obviously you have with WikiLeaks, and you had John Podesta's emails that were hacked. What ties did Russia have with that versus interfere that some may look at and go, okay, did they actually have anything to do with the voting that went on, which even the Obama administration said Russia had nothing to do with voting, that no machines were ever hacked. So I don't know how much news this, makes today other than the FBI is doing what the FBI does, which is investigate.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is getting, I will say this, it's getting, this is going to get, beginning to end, covered from beginning to end on the cable networks. I think it's going to get a lot of attention. My guess is that members of Congress, particularly Democrats, are going to be quite disappointed that a lot of their questions probably about Trump are questions that the FBI director and the NSA director cannot answer, because of a existing FBI investigation, or also perhaps because of this being done in a open setting when some of those matters might be classified. So, we'll see what comes out of this. It seems to me there's a couple things that are interesting right now. One is you've had a number of senior intelligence officials go on the record to say that the Trump campaign and the Russian government were not colluding, that there's no evidence of that. That is something that Democrats have been saying for months, alleging. And right now you have intelligence community officials confirming that at least as of now, based on the evidence, there's no evidence of that. That said, they are investigating what Russia did. We know that they did two things. One, they hacked the DNC, which showed that the DNC was colluding with Hillary's campaign to try to basically prevent Bernie Sanders from being the nominee. And we know that they hacked John Podesta's email, which had a number of embarrassing emails in there about with negative comments that senior Clinton campaign staffers made about Hillary. To me, it is. You can believe two things at the same time, right? One is that this is a serious matter that a foreign government would try to interfere in our election. Number one, but number two, that the seriousness of those two revelations. Let's be realistic here. I mean, John Podesta's email was no one voted based on John Podesta's emails.
Right.
Most voters don't even know who John Podesta is. And the DNC issue had to do with the primary, not the general election. So, Democrats are trying furiously to pin this entire, disastrous election campaign loss for Hillary on Russia because they want to really, put blame on someone else.
Yeah. Visiting with Matt Mackowiak. Matt, a couple of big things happening this week nationally. First and foremost, what kicks off today are the confirmation hearing for Justice Neil Gorsuch. if I'm gonna have you act as though you were on the other side of the aisle, if you were advising Democrats, would you tell them to put up a fight on Neil Gorsuch or to wait until you have another justice that decides to retire? The rumor is that it's going to be Kennedy who retires next, knowing that Gorsuch is, by all looks, unless there's been something hidden, he's a pretty good pick.
Yeah, this is going to be really interesting because the Democrats are going to have to choose between political strategy that makes sense and their base. Their base is demanding that they filibuster. They're demanding, that Gorsuch be prevented from becoming confirmed. They're mad over Merrick Garland. They're mad that he's someone who actually, looks at the Constitution and looks at the law when he makes judicial decisions. From a political standpoint, though, to your point, to your question, yeah, this is an important strategic choice they have because this is about a conservative replacing a conservative on the court, which does not alter the balance of the court. We remain effectively a 5-4 court or perhaps a 4-4-1 court with Kennedy as a swing vote. It is if Kennedy were to retire, obviously, or die, or Ruth Bader Ginsburg if she were to retire or die, where the balance of the court would be at stake. And so if they filibuster Gorsuch, and we don't have 8 Democrats that will vote for him, which I think is an open question, I do believe that McConnell will either choose to or be forced to, by his members, use the nuclear option to get rid of the filibuster for Supreme Court justices. If that happens, then the next nominee will be a fire breather from President Trump, a conservative fire breather, because there will be nothing holding that person back. Right? I mean, you could have Mike Lee, Ted Cruz. There's a number of people who could perhaps be on the Supreme Court in the next year in that circumstance. So Democrats should not be penny wise and pound foolish here by risk betting the farm on Gorsuch when it's pretty clear there's almost no opposition to him. They can't even find arguments to make against him right now. Yeah. He's very likable. He's extremely qualified. He's a solid. He's been a solid jurist, and I think you're going to see that with the confirmation hearing, which begins at 10 a.m. Central today.
President Trump standing behind Speaker Paul Ryan and the health care bill, which is, I think that surprised a lot of people from what just from what I read, whether it be on social media or some commentaries in the newspapers. A lot of people are surprised that Trump is sticking with Paul Ryan, but it looks like there's going to be some negotiating going on with the health care bill. You've got House leadership that says we want to get something done this week or early next week. Matt, what do you think happens this week with health care legislation?
Yeah, look, this is really, really close, and it's risky making predictions. I'll do it anyway because you've asked. Look, the Rules Committee, which is chaired by Dallas area Congressman Pete Sessions, is marking up to the final committee to mark up the Obamacare replacement. That's happening Wednesday morning, and the bill will be on the House floor Thursday. So this is going to be really close. I think 216 votes is the number that they need because there's a couple of vacancies right now. They can lose 21 Republicans and still pass the bill with no Democratic votes. It's going to be really, really close. It'll be interesting to see if the Rules Committee changes the bill in any fundamental ways. You've seen some criticism come out in the last couple of days. Ted Cruz said he wants it to focus more on reducing premiums. Paul Ryan, the Speaker, said he wants the bill to do more to help seniors, particularly poor seniors. So it'll be interesting to see if the Rules Committee makes any changes. And then, of course, the vote count itself, I think, will be very close. No one will want to be the deciding vote because that can be used against them, so they're really going to probably need 217 votes. So I think it's going to be close. My guess is it will pass the House. It'll go to the Senate. They'll make some changes. Whether the Senate can pass it is the real question because you have some very moderate members there, and one senator is a lot more powerful than one congressman.
What happens if the legislation overall fails? What happens with Trump's presidency the next few weeks, the next few months, the next few years? What happens if this fails?
Here's the reason why I think it's really apocalyptic for him politically. This is the first thing they decided to do, and so they have obviously put a lot of political capital into this. The Speaker, the President, their teams, the HHS Secretary, the OMB Director, Mick Mulvaney, they are all in on this. And they know that if they get an early loss, it is going to make them look weak. It's going to really sour the relationship with Capitol Hill Republicans, particularly those that stuck their neck out to help the White House on this. It also really fouls up their ability to do tax reform, because they're going to use reconciliation to do tax reform in a couple months as well, and they want to get the Obamacare taxes out to simplify the tax reform fight. So this entire 2017 calendar year is really sequenced in a very specific way. It's to start with the Obamacare replacement in phase 1 in reconciliation. Phase 2, Tom Price removes a number of the regulations by executive order through his authority as HHS Secretary. Phase 3 is passing the rest of what you want in the Obamacare replacement on a 60-vote threshold. Meanwhile, they want to try and get tax reform done by August or by the end of the year using reconciliation again. So I just think if they lose this fight, either in the House or the Senate, or in the House the second time, once it passes the Senate, I think it really puts the train off the tracks for the entire calendar year, and there's a chance they're going to lose the entire year legislatively, and that would be a disaster.
Visiting with Matt Mackowiak. Matt, before we let you go, tell folks how they can sign up for your morning newsletter, and also a little bit about your podcast as well.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate that. We do a morning newsletter for Texas called Must Read Texas. You can sign up at mustreadtexas.com. 4,000 Texans get the email sent to them every morning as the top news, top opinion, top blog items from around the state, all in one easy-to-read format. Also have my own podcast with the Washington Times newspaper, Mac on Politics. You can check it out on the iTunes Store, Google Play, Stitcher. It's also available on the web at onpolitics.com. Latest interviews were with James O'Keefe, the guerrilla journalist, Jim Garrity of National Review. Lots of good interviews on there.
Very cool. Matt, as always, appreciate your time, and we'll let you go for the day.
Take care. Have a great week.
You too.